It's been a long time since I put myself in front of the camera, so I'm about to get very open and vulnerable, and I don't even know how to say hi. Hi. I have just felt really strongly that I need to share my experiences and my story over the past several years as I have gone through the various different emotions and phases of infertility and trying to conceive and IVF. So they say that 1 in 8 women struggle with infertility, and that's insane when you think about that. 1 in 8. I've even heard the statistic 1 in 6, so I'm not sure what's the most accurate, but I'm 1 in 8. And it is painful physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of those things. But it's part of who I am. It's part of my story. It's part of my husband's story. It's part of our life. And so I want to open up and share our experiences with you. I have turned to other people's stories as a source of comfort, education, and connection. So I'm going to do a series of different videos. This first video, I'm going to focus on just our TTC, or trying to conceive journey, and what got us up to the point of being able to do IVF, because it was not an easy road. Thank you for being here. If you find this content helpful and informative, feel free to share with your friends, or just silently watch, whatever is comfortable for you. But I guess let's just jump in. I took some notes because there's just been a lot, and then I also have some video. I tried to document this experience over the last several years with just various different things that were happening, but keep in mind, these are just small moments in time. So our whole TTC journey has been about 5 years. I remember when we first started really actively being like, yes, we'd love, to bring children into our life. We feel like now is a good time. And I remember a coworker at the time was struggling with infertility as well. And she had mentioned that, it had taken them 1.5 years to get pregnant. And by this point, it'd been a few months, probably like 3 or 4 months. I wasn't really concerned, but that thought of like, what if that's part of my story was kind of running through my head. And I remember thinking, 1.5 years, there's no way I can do that. 1.5 years, that's such a long time. Well, here we are 5 years later, and I'm happy to report that we're expecting our first baby through IVF. I am 11 weeks, and some days, I don't know. I'll be 12 weeks on Friday, so I'm nearing up on my second trimester, which is a huge relief. So for the first couple years of marriage, we're just like, we're not going to actively try for children, but if it happens, it happens. So we went about our life, and it never happened. It just never happened. And so we come up on about 2 years, and I just remember having a conversation with Andrew and being like, hey, okay, this has taken us 2 years. I kind of have this feeling that infertility might be a struggle for us, but I'm not really sure. And we haven't really been actively trying. It's just been whatever, And so we went into it being like, okay, well, let's be more intentional about this, and let's, track your cycle and all that sort of stuff. And so started doing all of that. And that went on for about 6 months. And, they say like, on average, it takes a woman 6 months to 1 year to get pregnant. Sometimes it's the first time, sometimes it's a year. So what I did is I went ahead and scheduled an appointment with my gynecologist, got an appointment set up, and I was like, look, I'm going to go into this. By this point, I was in my late 20s. I think I was 28 or 29. So I was like, I'll just go in for a regular routine. I'll tell her that we're trying to get pregnant. It's been 6 months, and we'll just go from there. And one thing that was really important to me was I wanted to be able to sit down and have a conversation and talk with her, rather than just do a quick exam and be like, well, okay, here you go. All of that stuff. And so we had a good conversation, and she said, she's like, let's go ahead and test for PCOS, and let's test your thyroid, and let's just do the whole workup panel and all that sort of stuff. And so they did that. Everything came back positive. Everything came back good. There was nothing of concern. My thyroid levels were normal. Everything within my blood was normal. And she said, everything looks good. But she's like, let's go ahead and just put you on a round of Clomid. We'll put you on the lowest dose, and we'll do 3 rounds of Clomid, and most women are able to get pregnant within 3 rounds of Clomid. So we'll go from there. Now, looking back, I kind of wish I had done a little bit more research, but I was just excited to have a solution and an answer. And so in my mind, I was like, perfect. I had read several stories about people saying that they, were able to get pregnant with Clomid. And so I was like, cool, this is great. It's a solution. It'll work. It's not super invasive. It's affordable, like perfect. So I started that in July. I think it was the first part of July. So I started my first round of Clomid, and I hated Clomid.
So today is my last day on the first round of Clomid, and I'm really excited because this stuff has made me crazy. So hopefully this month we'll have a baby.
I don't know if any of you guys have ever been on Clomid, but I feel like my body temperature has been raised to like 50 degrees. I'm constantly hot. It's just crazy what women will do to have a baby. Like I don't know. It's kind of neat in a way, but it's also kind of crazy. And it's like, this is probably the only, first of many, many times in which I will do things to my body that will bring me discomfort and pain and crazy hormones, all for the sake of raising a family. So, guess I better get used to it.
So I did 3 rounds of Clomid, nothing. By this point, I was kind of frustrated. I was a little discouraged. And, after 9 months of trying for a baby, like, it's exhausting. And it's, if you've been there, if you haven't been there, I don't know how to explain it to you other than it's a weird place to be. But I don't care if you've been trying to have a baby and you wanted a baby and it took you 3 months or it took you 4 years or it took you 10 years. It is hard when you want something and you're doing all in your power to make it happen and you can't make it happen. Is very discouraging, at least for me, because I'm a make it happen kind of girl. And so I couldn't make it happen. I mean, I was doing all the things. I was, and it wasn't working. So at this point in our life, we're like, you know what? Let's do the whole, we're going to stop trying method, and we're not going to stress about it, and we're going to just cut out as much stress, because they say that's the biggest thing. And one of the biggest things people say to you when you're struggling to get pregnant, oh, just relax, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. Or, oh yeah, we tried to have babies too, and we went on vacation and that worked. You just get everybody telling you your stories, and that's well-intentioned, but I don't know. So we're like, okay, well, let's just stop actively trying. I felt confident that we'd have children, so I was like, when the time's right, it'll happen. Let's enjoy our life. Let's focus on our relationship and making sure that we have a solid relationship. Let's do that. And so we did, and we made some changes in our life, and we focused a lot on our relationship, and we focused on building an intentional life and really just enjoying our time together. And this was, we ended up going on the road and traveling the country, and it was one of the best times of my life. And I look back and I'm so glad we did that. I'm so glad we did that. And there's times where I'm like, I just want to go do that again. Because it really truly was so good for our relationship, and it was so good for me. And I learned a lot and grew a lot as a person, and I think Andrew did as well. And we just created memories with our family that, we wouldn't have otherwise. And so for me, getting out of this, why can't we get pregnant? What's wrong with me? Doctor visits, medication, and just stepping away from that and living life was really helpful. But it was always there in the back of my mind. It was always I knew my cycle. I knew when I was ovulating. I knew, I was very aware. So it never went away for me. I just took the pressure off of, it doesn't have to happen anytime soon.
Okay, so it is National Infertility Week, and we are going on over a year and a half of trying for a baby, and my period is currently 5 days late. So I'm gonna take a test. I'm nervous. All right, here we we go. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. I'm gonna go check. I don't know, I'm filming it myself because ooh, I had to hide it from myself. I think that's a no. I can't tell. I'm pretty sure that's a no. Because I don't see like anything. Well, that sucks.
I started to kind of get that like feeling that like, hey, if this is something we truly want, we need to take this a little bit more seriously. And so I really wanted to go to a fertility clinic, not just a gynecologist, but I wanted to go to a fertility clinic and I wanted to get worked up, both him and I, and just do like a full thing. And so for Christmas, I was like, can we go to the fertility clinic? That's all I want for Christmas. And so we agreed. I made an appointment with a clinic. I did a ton of research, found a doctor that I thought was going to be really good, had great prices, had a great location, scheduled our appointment. We ended up having to wait probably about 2 months to be able to get in to see the doctor. So we got in and we went, I want to say it was like the middle to end of January of 2021. We went in for our first fertility appointment together.
Basically, we have everything stacked against us. And I have PCOS and endometriosis. Andrew has everything that could be wrong on his end. And so do I. So basically, it's not looking good. I feel like I'm still kind of trying to process everything, so I haven't really felt the emotions yet. But I know it's coming. But yeah, pretty much if we're ever gonna have kids, it won't be natural. And he pretty much said like the only way you even stand a chance of getting pregnant is through IVF. So we're waiting for some results from some blood tests, and then basically we just have to wait for my cycle. They have to wait enough time because he wants to check a few more things, and so we have to basically wait a month and a half, and then I'm going to go back into the doctor, and then after that he'll determine whether or not I need surgery, if we could even do IVF, and then that's pretty much where we're at. So he said we're at least 3 months out before we'll do anything, and it's not looking very good. So that's kind of where things are. I don't know if I'm like happy to have answers instead of just like unknown, or I don't know. I feel kind of overwhelmed and a little numb right now. So maybe I'll jump on in a few days and kind of give a better update of where we're at when we get our results and stuff. I am really struggling. I think the reality and the weight of everything is just kind of piling on me, and I just needed to kind of get out. So I went for a drive. We have another doctor's appointment on Friday, and that'll kind of determine the next steps for us, and I don't know, just kind of questioning if it's worth it, if we should move down this path of IVF, and I don't know. It's really hard, and I feel like so dumb saying, oh, it's so hard, but it's really difficult today. Some days I'm okay, and you just get through the days, and other days are like today where it just sucks. And my mind is full of questions and doubt and fear, and just hard. So
we waited until November of that year for me to have that surgery. I had originally had my surgery scheduled to happen in August, but because of just complications in scheduling, I ended up getting COVID, and there was just a lot going on at the time. And so I ended up having to push it back to November, which, looking back now, I'm like, yeah, that was like a difference of like 2 or 3 months. But at that time, that was so devastating to me, because it's like we couldn't progress in our fertility journey until I had my surgery. We had to wait like 4 months to be able to even get in and see the doctor, because we had to do a different doctor, a surgeon had to do my surgery. And the fertility doctor was like, there's only one guy that I trust to do the surgery, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, we had to wait like 4 months to be able to even get in to see him. And then we got on the schedule to be able to have the surgery, and he was so backed up. We couldn't do the surgery till like August, but then we just had scheduling conflicts, and then I ended up getting COVID. And then because I got COVID, they wanted me to wait for a certain time. And so then I couldn't even get in to have my surgery till November. So at this point, it's been a whole nother year of just waiting. And in that time, I'm like, well, maybe we'll get pregnant naturally, because you hear stories of people being like, yeah, we went to the fertility doctor, and then the day before we had our appointment, I got pregnant and stuff like that. So I kind of had that in the back of my head of like, okay, well, maybe it'll happen. But it didn't. So I had my surgery on November 3rd of 2021. Andrew had just started a brand new job. We had given up our time on the road. We lived in Richfield for a little bit. And at this point, we were looking for a house, because I was just about to start a new job. Andrew just started a new job, and we were going to buy a house, because we were going to take this seriously of like, if we want to have children, we need a place for them, you know, etc. So I had my surgery. And they removed several polyps. They cleaned everything up. I had like 3 massive endometriomas on my right ovary. Anyway, so they cleaned everything up. Recovery was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be.
well, I'm 3 days post-surgery. I had a diagnostic laparoscopy, something. They removed 4 endometriomas on my right ovary. They cleaned up a bunch of stuff. 3 days. And the recovery's been a lot harder than I thought it would be, honestly. But let me show you this. There you go. Endometriosis is real, friends. And it is not fun.
Went back for my follow-up. Doctor's like, everything looks great. Surgery was good. He's like, I'm confident you'll get pregnant within 6 months. He's like, most women will get pregnant within 3 to 6 months after having the surgery. So good luck. 6 months went by, still not pregnant. And that was like super devastating, because at this point now, I've had 3 separate doctors tell me, if you do this, you will be pregnant. I'm confident. Took 3 rounds of Clomid, not pregnant. Had surgery, not pregnant. Waited 6 months, not pregnant. So challenging. So by this point, I started doing a little bit more research into endometriosis and into the surgery I had and into the doctor that we had used in the past. Come to find out, this doctor had been arrested, the doctor, not the surgeon, the fertility doctor that we went to, had been arrested for molesting his patients. And that was just like let's just throw that into our TTC journey. Not only are we feeling incredibly vulnerable, we're feeling incredibly, discouraged, and it's just a lot. And now we find out that the doctor has literally spent time in jail for molesting his clients. I'm like, how is this man still allowed to practice? So anyway, I was like, we're going to find a new doctor. So I spent some time doing some research and stuff. And at this point, I kind of knew, like, hey, if we're going to do this, we'll probably end up doing the IVF route, which is expensive. And I just was like, I don't know, like, how do we approach this? So I just started doing a little research. We ended up deciding to go with the Utah Fertility Clinic. They had a clinic right there by Andrew and I's work, and so we could have our appointments there. So the summer of 2022, summer of 2022, I scheduled another appointment, and we went in for our fertility appointment. And it's frustrating because it's like you have to start off at square one. So it's like we've been working with this other doctor, we had all these medications, we were doing all this stuff, had the surgery, and now we're like switching and starting over from square one. And they were supposed to transfer all the records, they didn't. So we go in for our consultation, we go in, we sit down, you know, and the doctor's just like, so what can we do for you? I'm like, I'm in a fertility clinic. What do you think you can do for us? So it was very casual. We just had a conversation. I kind of told him, I was like, I had surgery for endometriosis, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay. And then he spent the next 30 minutes talking about how expensive IVF is and how we should advocate for our work to pay for our insurance, to get better insurance to pay for IVF. And he went on this whole soapbox about how companies in Utah, the insurance policies that they offer often don't include fertility treatments. And he said he's like, to me, I think it's a crime. He's like, I think it's ridiculous. So he was like, I really encourage you both to go back and advocate for your employees to offer better insurance. He's like, because this is really expensive. And at this point, I was like, I know that our insurance will cover testing and diagnostics, but it won't actually cover the treatment, which is pretty common for most insurance. And so I was like, we can do all the testing, we can do all that stuff, but when it comes to like actual paying for this, I was like, we're going to be paying out of pocket, which we'd been saving for. We had an HSA. We were working on being prepared to do that. So, you know, Andrew's like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let's go back to our insurances and advocate for it. And I'm over here like, can we just please just do this already? I'm like, it's been like 3.5, 4 years. Like, I was just so frustrated and so discouraged. But I was like, okay, I'll do my due diligence. And so, anyway, by the way, we weren't able to get into the Utah Fertility Clinic until the end of September. We actually went, I want to say on our anniversary. I think it was our 6-year anniversary. We went to the second fertility clinic together. In this process, we had a very generous family come forward and say that they were more than happy to fund our fertility treatments. And just for respect for them, like I won't say their name, but yeah, we're just so grateful. And I know that's not the case for everybody, but we were so blessed and so grateful for this generous family who so graciously gave for us to have something. And I've struggled with like, how do you say thank you? How do you repay somebody for that? Like, and I don't know, if you have any suggestions, let me know. But it just drastically changed my view of like, there's so much good that can come from this. And what a neat thing to be a recipient of. So thank you. And so once we got that all lined up, we were able to start moving forward with our IVF treatments.